cases close, but some never rest. When silence screams, we listen. This is dead and wrong.
Good morning, I'm Liz.
And I'm Sam.
And this is Dead and Wrong, your weekly podcast about all things dead. Animals, people, ghosts. If it's dead, we're going to talk about it.
And also, our episodes are released every Sunday. I don't know if we said that, but I'm saying it now. It's every Sunday.
Right now, we have it releasing every Sunday evening, but eventually, once my weekends are a little less hectic, we're going to have like an actual set time that all the episodes are released. So we'll be able to further pinpoint when the episodes are going to be released.
Right now, it's just fun.
It's whenever I can get to it. And today's episode is actually going to be somewhat of a quote-unquote fun episode. Sad, but fun, because it involves dun 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 the Satanic Panic,
Boop boop.
or well, the beginning of it. So, let's get started. Dead and Wrong presents episode 11, The Witchcraft Murder of 1972. So, imagine sitting at your home on a cool September day. You decide to take a step outside, breathing in that evening autumn air deep into your lungs. When, out of the blue, your precious furry companion comes running to you from his usual hunt with a very interesting gift. It's the severed, decaying forearm and hand of a woman.
It's a great gift, but not the one I'd want.
I said interesting gift. This is exactly what happened to Grace Trezone on September 19, 1972, when her dog returned home from his usual adventure in the Haldale Quarry in Springfield Township, New Jersey. Of course, Grace sees this and is just like, what the fuck? And immediately calls the police and informs them of what she found. She explains her canine's usual hunting grounds, the quarry, and this is where the police officers of the Springfield Police Department start their search. And after roughly 6 hours of searching, about 6 p.m. that day, Officer Don Short locates the remains of a woman atop a 40-foot cliff within the quarry. The woman was on her stomach, facing towards the right, with her right arm over a tree limb. But these remains, according to Dawn, were not the most terrifying part. According to Dawn, there was a wooden cross over her head that was made of 2 different sticks and stones that were arranged in a semicircle around her head that reminded him of a halo. A second officer who arrived on scene claimed that it looked like some kind of witchcraft had happened.
Oh, okay.
And they knew right away this body was the result of a satanic cult murder. So they find all these things. But the odd fact is that the photos of the scene taken by Detective Howard Thompson didn't match any of this. For starters, the area was actually a dense, overgrown patch of woods within the quarry. So they had sticks, logs, everything that you would find when going on a hike through the woods all over the ground. There were large sticks around her body, but the closest shape they remember they looked like was a quote-unquote open rectangle. But when I looked at the crime scene photos, it just looked like sticks in a wooded area, just like that you would find in any wooded area. So no crosses or stones around her body. Now, there were 2 large branches, honestly probably more like just small trees that were on the ground, but they were like in a 90-degree angle where one was over her head and the other went down along her body, which is where her right arm was over the tree branch. So definitely not a cross shape. The detectives were able to note everything that they found near the body. So the woman was wearing a blue shirt, tan pants, and had brown sandals. And then about 8 feet south of her body was what appeared to be the potential contents of a woman's purse in a small pile. The items found were Marshall tissues, which was just the brand, a Vicks inhaler, a small green compact, lipstick, a key with a ring on it, a clear vial with an unknown substance, which potentially ended up being quercetin, which is just over-the-counter cold and flu medicine, and a small eyeshadow box that was in a white plastic container. So besides these items in the body, there wasn't anything else. In fact, the purse itself that would have contained these contents on the ground was gone, and they've never located it. There were no signs of foul play, no weapons, no cigarette butts or empty soda cans, nothing. And the body was so badly decomposed that when the medical examiner obtained possession of it, they couldn't even determine what the cause of death was. They were able to rule some things out, though, as they could take an x-ray, and so they were able to determine that there were no stab wounds or bullet holes visible within the bone. In fact, the body was mostly held together, minus the arm that the dog had. Now, thankfully, and here is an interesting fact for the listeners, if you didn't know, teeth do not decay. They're very, very hard to get rid of teeth.
Mm-hmm.
And so as long as you had been to the dentist at some point, you can be identified by your dental records. And because of that, they were able to identify who this body was. This was 16-year-old Jeannette Christine DePalma, who had been missing for approximately 6 weeks.
It decayed that fast in 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Depending if she's in the wood and if it had rained, I feel like your body could decay that fast.
I guess New Jersey, humidity, hurricanes.
In a quarry. Imagine the
rain.
kind of bugs. I think it could decay pretty fast. I mean, you're going to have skin slippage.
Blech.
And if that skin starts falling off, bugs are going to eat it.
True.
I could see the potential. So, let's talk a little bit about Jeannette. So Jeannette was born August 3rd, 1956 to Salvatore and Florence DePalma in Jersey City, New Jersey. The DePalmas were a large Italian Catholic family. Jeannette was the second youngest of 8 children. She had 3 older brothers, 3 older sisters, and 1 younger sister, who was born a year after her. The family would stay in this area until 1966, where they would eventually move to the township of Springfield, New Jersey. They found a quaint 5-bedroom, 4-bath house located at 4 Clearview Drive for only $65,000.
Yeah, but that was way back then, and that's a big house.
I know. I looked it up actually this time. So, in case anybody is wondering, today that house would be worth $662,464.35.
If we took the money that they paid in today, yeah.
Yeah, I like how they call it quaint. It's not a quaint house.
That's not quaint. That's a mansion.
5-bedroom house. And once they settled into this lovely, quote-unquote, quaint home, they kind of just kept to themselves. Like, they attended church every now and then, but as a family, they didn't really interact with their neighbors that much. So, growing up, Jeannette was described as just a normal teenager. She was quiet but kind, funny and sweet but firm, and she was just a good person and a good friend to those who knew her. Are you going to go look up the house?
Oh, I'm definitely looking up the house. I'm actually looking it up in, I don't want to say the name because I don't want us to get hit with like penalties, but I'm going in a house hunting website. I want to see how much it would be today.
While she's doing that, so Jeannette, like most people, did her best to fit in with the times. You see, Jeannette had wavy hair, but at this point in time, straight hair was in. So she tried every trick in the book to get her hair straight. I know someone with super wavy hair, it's not that easy. And that's with our tools today.
Oh yeah, my sister gets it chemically straightened, my older sister.
It's a lot. So just imagine back then having wavy hair and trying to get it straight.
Yeah, they used to
No,
iron.
thank you. Yeah. No, thank you. Jeannette loved listening to rock music, hanging out with her friends, and would even attend a party or two every now and then, as did most teens back then and still today. Now, this was a time known for hitchhiking. I've heard of so many stories about hitchhiking in the 70s, the 80s, etc. It was popular among everyone, and Jeannette was known to hitchhike for convenience, as it made getting to where you needed to go easy. And this is what brings us back to how Jeannette came to be found dead in the quarry. So it's August 7th, 1972, just 4 days after Jeannette turned 16. her cousin Gail Donahue and her were speaking over the phone about plans they made to meet up with some boy. At first, Jeannette had told Gail she couldn't go because she had too many chores to do, but Gail kept pushing, and eventually Jeannette said, "You know what? I'll come hang out. The chores can wait." So Jeannette tells her mom she was going to walk to the Summit train station and take to Berkeley Heights where she would be meeting up with Gail, and Florence was okay with this. Well, as the day went by and the evening came to an end, Florence and Salvatore became worried and made their first call to the local police because Jeannette still had not returned home, and this was at like 10 p.m. And not surprising at all, the phone call did not go as expected because they were told that they were going to have to wait a full 24 hours before the police could officially file Jeannette as missing. I believe it's 12. If they're 12 and under, if they go missing, is when the police immediately report it.
Yeah, but back in those days, they didn't. They just assumed they were runaways.
I mean, it was the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So August 7th ended, and the morning of the 8th arrived. But Jeannette still had not come home, so her family went back to the police, and Jeannette was officially made a missing child. Now, there were questions about what happened to Jeannette within the family over the first few days, but they did not voice these concerns to the police because they didn't want it to mess up the investigation. There was a part of them that wondered if maybe Jeannette had just run away. Like, maybe she really liked the boy. I think it was also a part of the times where a lot of people just went and did their own thing. But most of them thought maybe something had happened and she was actually missing. And what didn't help with the whole situation was the lack of work on the police department's end. Apparently, there was such little help that Jeannette's family just took it upon themselves to look for her themselves. And they would have nothing for a while. In fact, it would actually take exactly 43 days before they would get any kind of answer to what happened.
43 days.
Jesus. I counted. It said approximately 6 weeks, but I actually went in and counted how many days. So it took that long for them to finally get answers, but even with having answers, the struggles didn't end there. So, in the beginning of the investigation, there were 3 men that were interrogated for the possible involvement with Jeannette's death. There was her ex-boyfriend, Wayne Tate, who worked as a watchman for the quarry, a drunk accountant who was known to be mentally unstable.
These are her ex-boyfriends?
No, her ex-boyfriend was just Wayne Tate. But
okay.
They also interrogated a drunk accountant and then a homeless drifter that lived within a patch of the woods near the location where Jeannette was found. At first, the accountant was actually the most promising as he was also the suspect in 3 other murders. But once the interrogations were over, all the 3 men were ruled out. And I couldn't really find too much on what exactly was said that was made them ruled out. There's a book about this that I'm assuming has more information, but I did not read. So at one point during the investigation, Pastor Reverend James Tate decided to step forward and claim that he knew potentially what happened. And yes, James Tate is related to Wayne Tate, the ex-boyfriend. James is his father. So Pastor Tate knew Jeannette and her family through the church they attended. The DePalmas attended the Assemblies of God Evangel Church, and at one point they even labeled themselves as born-again evangelical Christians. And Pastor Tate claimed that Jeannette's devotion to her religion is what got her killed. You see, Jeannette was apparently devoted to evangelism, which is the act of sharing the Christian gospel with the goal of persuading others to follow Christ. Because of this devotion, Jeannette apparently approached a group of Satan worshippers and attempted to lecture them about Christ with the hopes of converting them. This caused the fanaticism.
This caused the, oh my god,
fanaticism.
Why did you write a word that you can't say?
It wasn't the notes.
To rise, and they killed her.
So this caused the fanaticism to rise, and so they killed her. In case anyone is curious, because I was, this fanaticism.
What does the word mean?
Is
how about we start with that?
Excessive, irrational, and often unreasonable. unreasonable enthusiasm, devotion, or zeal for a cause, belief, or activity typically characterized by little tolerance for opposing views.
Okay. So they were narrow-minded little buttheads.
Yes, and then they killed her. Now, I'm sure that most true crime junkies know who Charles Manson is. If you don't,
Yes.
he was a cult leader who had his followers kill 9 people. And this event was a major catalyst for the satanic panic that consumed the 80s. And seeing as a man had murdered his whole family shortly before Jeannette went missing, claiming it was to save them all from Satanism, the newspaper titles that came out regarding Jeannette's death are not too shocking. They were "Girl Sacrificed in Witchcraft" and "Witchcraft Implicated in the DePalma Murder." These were the 2 major headlines that covered the paper. And from there, the case kind of just goes cold. The police basically accepted Jeannette's death as unknown, and the whole town believed that if it wasn't witchcraft, it was either a biker gang or a cop that caused her death. And this
We
would
can't just focus on a sad girl, or not a sad girl, but a girl that sadly died. Just can't focus on that. Sorry, keep going.
as I was saying, so this would leave a deep-rooted fear within the townspeople that would last centuries. But we aren't done here. Sam, you look like you have something to say.
Oh, I found the house. It's like over $1 million now.
Is it pretty?
It is ridiculous.
Is it a pretty house?
On the outside, yeah, it's pretty.
You want to go in and buy it
I
together?
I don't want to buy that for $1 million. I want land. Land to bury my bodies.
We're gonna need some pigs.
Done.
So, the editors of Weird New Jersey, which is a magazine company, heard about this case later and decided they wanted to investigate it themselves because it was a cold case, and who doesn't want to solve a cold case? So they were able to connect with a man named Ed Salzano. Ed was close to Jeannette's late nephew, John Bancy. Ed was able to give a little bit more information on who Jeannette was. To him, she was a prissy mall rat who made it her mission to help the local kids who she saw selling drugs find the Lord. And apparently she must have been quite pretty, which I looked her up and she was pretty, because all of the young teen boys were chasing after her. And some of these boys were considered to be super aggressive. Wayne Tate. So, when he was talking to the editors of Weird New Jersey, Ed told them he had actually filed a lawsuit in 2018 to have the Union County Prosecutor's Office retest the clothing that Jeannette had been wearing for DNA. Obviously, DNA wasn't really a thing back in 1972, so he decided, like, why not now? The equipment's great. You can test so many things going back. Oddly, Superior Court Judge Karen Cassidy denied this request simply because Ed was not blood related to Jeannette. It's always a Karen. I'm sorry for any Karen listening to this, that's not true. So, Jeannette's nephew John had passed away in 2017, and this is why the request fell on Ed, and a part of him was doing it for John, because John spent his whole life trying to figure out what happened to his aunt, and died without answers. But of course, where there's one weird thing, there's more weird things. And so this case gets more weird. You see, Weird New Jersey ended up actually making several requests for the actual case report and supporting documents before speaking with Ed. Because obviously you're going to try to get the case before you start speaking with close friends and family, because you need to know what you're talking about. And they were consistently met with resistance from the local police. This included when they were told that the whole entire file had been destroyed in 1999 during Hurricane Floyd, as the basement of the building had been flooded, and that's where the case had been stored. A lot of cases were stored in the basement, which was true. Well, this was proven to be a lie, because the editors of Weird New Jersey and the future authors of Death on Devil's Teeth, Jesse Pollock and Mark Moran, were finally able to get the Union County Prosecutor's Office to release these supposed destroyed files in February 2021.
Wow.
So basically, like in 2018, they're like, oh no, these were destroyed. And then 3 years later, they're like, oh, they weren't destroyed.
I bet you somebody else took that spot and they're like, oh yeah, we got the files. Here you go.
Yeah. And in this file were the actual crime scene photos, which is funny because so many sources that I looked into stated no photos were taken, but there were.
There were. We just looked them
Mhm.
up.
Exactly. So these photos are online, and thankfully they are redacted. So Jeanette's body is covered in a dark film, like they literally outlined her entire body and filled it in, so you can't see her body, but you can
You
see how
just
she
see
was
how she's
laying.
posed.
Yes. And again, I just want to know, like, why were they claiming the files were destroyed when they
Well,
clearly weren't?
usually because
It's a
somebody
cover up.
higher up in the community was involved.
Like a pastor, maybe? A very important pastor of the time?
Yep, and back then pastors were big deals.
Hmm.
Big, big, big deals.
Especially when that pastor's son is so deeply involved and was apparently very heartbroken over the breakup.
Oh my gosh, I get it now. That's why they thought there was crosses around her body.
Because the pastor wanted to push it towards a satanic panic.
Yeah,
These are just theories, we have no proof. So these
this is my
photos,
opinion.
in my opinion, so these photos show that there were no crosses or a halo of stone.
Yeah, I
There
didn't see
were
any of those.
no animal sacrifices, no arrows carved into trees, and no altar of any kind, as some of the townsfolk had claimed. We're pretty sure that these claims are also what helped, lead to the whole witch and satanic cult belief.
Oh yeah, it
People
fueled the
spoke
fire.
to the townspeople, this is what they heard, and then it just got pushed out more. There was also a point in time where the local police claimed that Jeanette's death was not due to witchcraft, but was an overdose. She was apparently found at a known party spot, so this wasn't just a witch area, it was a known party spot.
It wasn't a random placement.
Hmm. And the reason why her body was left there was because when she overdosed, everyone panicked, fled out of fear of punishment, and left instead of rendering first aid. And obviously, without first aid, she died. Could make sense.
And that could be very true. Kids do that.
But again, the photos showed a different story. The area was way too overgrown. There was countless large plants and bushes, and there were no party evidence. No cans, no wrappers, no nothing. And the overgrowth is important because if this was a known party spot, the plants would be trampled over, and even if it was weeks later, there's still going to be some kind of footprint around. And there was none of this. So, Pollock and Moran, again the authors, they believe that this part came from information that was found within Jeanette's diary, who spoke about going to parties and kissing boys.
I mean, she's 16.
That's what 16-year-old girls do. So
They write in
this,
a notebook about cute boys.
exactly. So this will lead us to the confession of Jeanette's death. Someone confessed to it.
Not the guy that did it.
Actually, it might have been.
Oh,
Um,
okay, I take it back.
But this was never taken into consideration. Like, the guy confessed to Pollock, Pollock took it to the police, and they were just like, oh, okay, and then didn't do anything. So, this guy who confessed was serial killer Richard Cottingham, who was known as the Torso Killer and the Times Square Killer.
Wait, he was all of them?
He had both names. I didn't look too much into why he was called the Torso Killer, because I might cover him.
Yay.
In Times Square, his hunting, quote unquote, hunting ground was New Jersey and New York.
So she would fit right into that placement.
Even more so. So he implicated to Pollock and Moran that he did it. Basically said he abducted her and killed her. And I actually believe this for a few reasons. He was actively killing in New Jersey in 1972.
Okay.
His main target was hitchhiking women. Jeanette was known to hitchhike.
Okay, 2 checks.
In 1972, one of his victims was a 21-year-old that was only an hour away, so he was even within the area. From what I've gathered, his youngest victim was 13, and he's killed women into the 30s. So Jeanette's also within the age range of the women he kills. And while he has been convicted for a total of 11 kills, so confirmed, charged on 11 women. He's claimed he's killed anywhere between 85 to 100 girls and women, and they just haven't found the bodies.
Interesting.
So I think he actually did kill her.
I mean, he fits it, but
As much as it is weird with the whole pastor thing, I don't know. It fits everything that I think he really did. He doesn't have the death penalty. He just has life sentences.
Why do we not have a death penalty?
I mean, at least he didn't chop her head off.
That's true.
Too soon?
No, I actually forgot about it, but thanks for bringing it back.
You're welcome. And to end this episode, because I read them and they kind of made me chuckle, I'm going to read some of the anonymous quotes that Pollock and Moran were able to collect from the townspeople who were willing to talk, though most of them were quoted as anonymous because the people didn't want their names. So, one person said, "This is in regards to the story of Jeannette DePalma. When her body was found, it was not on an altar. There were logs around her body. She needs to be put at rest finally. I'm sure something out there or someone must be able to give you some more information about the case. Maybe she did it herself, because at the time there was a lot of Satan stuff going on in the reservation. Sorry, I can't give you my name for more reasons than one." The next, one of my favorites. "I was a young teenager when the discovery of Jeannette DePalma happened and lived in the next town over. About 2 years prior, there was much talk in my school about a cult in the surrounding area. They were known as the Witches. They must have let it be known in the area that they planned to kill a child on or about Halloween, either by kidnapping and sacrificing them or by poison. I remember being anxious about this because I went trick-or-treating in those days. I didn't read the newspaper, but I was well aware of the dog that brought home the girl's arm. The story was well known as I lived within 3 miles of the quarry." So this cult of witches did it. Remember?
Teenage witches. I mean, teenagers can do some crazy things. We know that.
Yeah.
We know that.
Yes.
But still
So
kind of funny.
remember how I said that the photographs showed that there were no arrows that pointed the way? This is the quote
Yeah.
where it comes from. So someone said, "Apparently my mom knew Jeannette because Jeannette worked at a clothing store in Summit named Sealfons. They were about the same age, which would have been around 13 or 14. She was 16. My mother and some of her friends used to hang out and camp in the quarry. That is, until they found out about the murder. My uncle, who was a Summit cop, came to warn my mother about going there any longer. From what I was told, these details were never released to the public. When the dog brought home the arm and the search for the body started, they found arrows carved into the trees that led them to the body. So it took them 6 hours to follow a bunch of arrows to a dead body. The location was high up on a cliff.
It wasn't.
All around her body were dead animals tied to trees with strings and in some jars.
This is like the Blair Witch Project.
Shortly thereafter, there were reports of animals being mutilated and hung in the same fashion in the Watchung Reservation, which is also very close to the scene of the crime. The Watchung Reservation, or quote-unquote the Res, has been reported to be the center of devil worship activity for years.
Oh yeah, let's blame the Native Americans for it. Oh my gosh. This is ridiculous.
Another person said, "I too forgot about the death of Jeannette DePalma, but I can never forget all the weird stuff that happened in Summit Mountainside, Springfield, and for me, the majority of it in the Watchung Reservation. Now that I think about it, it would make sense that Springfield would cover up the murder so as not to tarnish the reputation of the town. I know that the sacrifice that my friends saw was never reported or was in the newspaper. But I remember, and I sure as hell know they do too." What sacrifice?
So the Watchung Reservation is like 6 miles of trails and some historic buildings.
And Satan
So
worshiping.
yeah. Gosh, people are just
And this is
fun.
the last one. This guy actually left his name, but only his first name, if it's his real name. So, this man said, "I knew Jeannette DePalma very well, and my friend went out with her. We used to go to church with her. She was a religious girl, but I think her parents forced her to go to church. She was kind of a little bit of a wild girl. We all went up to the house and helped look for her and spoke with her parents. I don't think my friend, who was quite in love with her, ever recovered from it. I was very surprised that the police don't have anything in the archives about her. It's funny, My wife read the story and she says, don't even get involved. It's a satanic thing. It was all the talk of Union County for 2 weeks, and then boom, it was gone. It left the papers very quickly, which is very spooky in itself. In the past 30 years, I think I've only thought about the girl twice, and I felt a little ashamed of myself. And then I read the weird New Jersey article and said, holy cow, everyone forgot about Jeannette DePalma. That poor girl. Rich. So, those are the quotes of people talking about Jeannette.
Poor girl.
Everyone forgot about her.
She just became part of gossip and
Witchcraft.
yeah, which none of that's true. Oh,
And that
gotta love it.
And that is the witchcraft slash satanic cult murder of 1972. Which, the whole witchcraft thing to me is quite hilarious because
Same.
the police claimed it was witchcraft, but the photos didn't show that. The photos that they took showed no signs of witchcraft.
It's literally like somebody just placed her on tons of
A bunch of rocks.
tree limbs and rocks, and she's laying on top of it. Nothing is in order. There's no placement of anything. It's crazy. People.
I will say, reading everything and looking into it is so if it wasn't Richard, there is a part of me that thinks it was the ex-boyfriend. Because I can't remember exactly where I read it, which I tend to do sometimes, but he was not happy about the breakup. She broke up with him.
So he poisoned her,
He could have strangled her.
but that would have shown in X-rays.
Would it for just bone?
In an X-ray, yeah, because you would break this. I'm not gonna say it because I always call it the wrong dang thing. But there's like a little part in here that if you strangle someone, it gets to a point where it will break that.
Could that decay? Could that small part decay without?
I wouldn't think it would decay in 6 weeks.
Can you strangle with something that wouldn't break it?
Yeah, but that would even leave ligature marks. Even after decaying, you'll still have massive purple or black marks around that spot.
I mean, they said it was so severely decayed that all they could do was rule stuff out by x-ray. So I did just look up. This is just AI overview. It said a body can decompose significantly or badly within a quarry in 6 weeks, often reaching advanced decay or partial skeletonization depending heavily on climate and exposure. In warm exposed condition, a body can reach advanced decay within just 10 to 25 days.
Yeah, but even here, ligature marks will still be displayed after 6 weeks on a very overdecayed body.
So maybe he pressed something over her mouth and nose.
But that should still show capillary burst, whatever. I'm so bad at this. Around the mouth and nose.
Then maybe it was poison. Or maybe the coroner was also covering it up and is just lying. And
Maybe.
falsified documentation.
Probably.
But anyways,
I mean, I guess for what we know today, it's not what they knew back then. So today's, coroners would analyze and look at these things differently than they did back then.
But I'm not gonna lie, super religious people will almost always blame satanic things.
Mm-hmm.
So there is the potential that the Reverend just did it because that's what he truly believed. But add in the fact that her ex-boyfriend was a suspect at one point, or at least was interrogated, and his father was the Reverend, and the Reverend started pushing this satanic idea after Tate was interrogated. Those are my two theories. It was either the ex-boyfriend and Dad pushed the satanic thing even more, knowing, Charles Manson and John List, which was the guy who killed his family.
Yeah.
To push that on.
Or the serial killer.
Or the serial killer. And at that point in time, it's a small area. The church was very big. I wouldn't be surprised if the Reverend got the police to help cover it up because of his position within society.
Oh yeah, I strongly believe that would happen. Strongly believe it.
Those are my two theories.
Well, that was fun.
It was a fun case. It was sad. Because
it was sad because she died, but
yeah. And even though it was a 16-year-old, at least we don't really know what happened. We just know she died. But I thought it was the whole witchcraft and it was Satan worshippers.
The way they came at it was sad and just disrespectful to her Funny for us now, but back then, no.
Yeah,
Not
no,
good. But anyways, everybody, remember we do have socials. Please like and share and rate these to help us push the podcast out to more people.
yes, please.
We're on Facebook, Instagram, and you can listen to these episodes on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, everything under Dead and Wrong Podcast. And if you like, you can email us some fun stories for us to read at deadandwrongpodcast@gmail.com.
Please do, because
Uh,
I want to read other people's stories. I really do.
yeah, I want stories too. I like stories. So that's all. We'll see you next week for another fun-filled episode of Two Girls Just Talking About Some Dead
Dead
Things.
things. Bye, guys.